Welcome. It's me. It's Tyler. And this special show. We are doing a special show. I tried to get some guests on here. I don't know if we're going to get any, but I'll let you know. I'll let you know if we have any surprise visitors. But yeah, if we don't, it's all good. And yeah, I will have some questions that I'm going to take. And yeah, we will answer them. So, just before we do that, I just want to say that I hope that all of these shows provide something for the people and make you happy. Mental health is important. I hope that makes a difference. I hope that, everyone is doing well. Everyone's feeling, healthy mentally, physically, because I care about all of you. So, just keep that in mind. Anyway, let's go to the questions. If you want to put them in the chat, you can. I'd love to take them from the chat, but I'll go to the questions I prepared. We'll start with that. Let's see. I think we recognize this guy, Addison. So Addison has 2 empty bench slots and drop Chad Hansen, so 3 bench slots. Who do you add to see what happens to training camp? Pascal, Patrick, Brait, Keelan Cole, Byron Pringle, Manhurts, McNichols. I mean, I'm not really a believer in any of these players. I would add Pascal and Patrick because I think there's a chance they're traded to the Saints. They're 2 of the players I've suggested that the Saints should target in a trade to fix their bad wide receiver situation. And, Keelan Cole might have a chance on the Jets, but it's tough now that they restructured Crowder. So I'd probably say Pascal, Patrick, and Cole, but I don't really want any of these guys, to be perfectly honest. Yes. Welcome. Thanks, Ed. And yeah. Okay. So let's move on. Question from Brett. Akers versus Sermon. What a good question. We know, unfortunately, Cam Akers had an Achilles tear. And we know that, that could be the death of a running back. I mean, that could be a career-ending injury. Now, with that said, I have settled on ranking Cam Akers, pretty low, but not as low as some people. I still have Cam Akers ranked above Trey Sermon. I think that Trey Sermon is going to be, I said this last night, and I'll say it again. I think that Trey Sermon is going to be a timeshare back. I think he's going to be, he could succeed, but it's going to be a timeshare. So Cam Akers beats the odds. He'll be worth a lot more than Trey Sermon. I'll stick with Cam Akers. Close though. From Zach, do you prefer to make big deals or do you try to accrue value through a lot of smaller trades? Also, hi, Tyler, I love you. Well, I mean, it's a good question. When I'm playing on my own, which is rare these days, I tend to make a lot of smaller trades. Now, when I'm doing Patreon, which is most of what I do nowadays, it's just not realistic that I'm going to be able to make trades for 4ths and 5ths on every team for every player. That is an unrealistic outcome. So in those situations, I have to focus more on the bigger picture, making bigger deals. But in general, I like the smaller trades. But I'll take any trade that gets good value. That's like what Ed says. David, which side would you prefer? Damian Harris or Michael Pittman? Good question. I just think that the upside with Michael Pittman is more with Michael Pittman. With Damian Harris, what are you hoping for? You hoping for like, I don't even know, running back 2 at best? I don't know. So Michael Pittman could be the wide receiver 1 there, and that gives him more fantasy upside. So I'll take Pittman. Yeah, I mean, it is difficult to find someone who'll give you the most for each piece, but you have to be willing to do everything. Okay. Chubb and Hunt, or 2 22 first and 23 first and a 1 QB. Well, in a 1 QB, Chubb's worth a lot more because there's no quarterbacks at the top. This is about right. I mean, I'm probably not paying this, but I'm not opposed to paying it. If you're really a contender, I'm fine taking the Chubb side here. If not, it's all good. This is fine. Yeah. Yeah, give me Pittman. Not sure Harris is long for this world. Yes, I agree. Well, I don't know if I would say that Harris is not long for this world, but I don't think Harris has a lot of upside. On Pittman. Upside is nice. Yeah. What is Mecole Hardman worth to you in terms of rookie picks from Zach? 12 team superflex PPR. I mean, he's worth like, I'm not paying a second for Mecole Hardman, but he's worth more than a third. So I think that answers your question. Maybe 2/3. I don't know. 2/3. Any idea from Mark? Any idea who the backup to Mike Davis in Atlanta could be in order to fill roster bench spots? I think it's Javian Hawkins, but it could be Quadri Allison, or it could be Adrian Peterson. I think that last scenario is very possible. But Javian Hawkins for now. Yeah. This will be here, even if you don't catch it live, this will be here after, so you can check it out later. It's my dilemma on Hardman. I don't know. Tell me what this dilemma is. Okay, let's rip through some of these. The reason I'm doing this is because there are so many questions. There are so many questions in the mailbag, but we don't get to any of them because on the last show, we got to barely finish the questions in the chat. We barely finished because there were just so many of you who contributed questions. You wonderful people consistently contribute questions in the chat. So we don't get to any of the questions that are in advance. That's why we're here. We're doing these questions. So we're going to get to them now. From @Dunsey15, top 4 picks in a Superflex Dynasty rookie draft this year. I have 104. I mean, the top 4 picks are pretty clear to me at this point. It's Trevor Lawrence, 101, Justin Fields, 102, Trey Lance, 103, Najee Harris, 104. It's pretty clear. Not a lot of wiggle room for me on that. Okay. From Front Desk. I like that. 12-team Superflex, and I'm eyeing Mahomes. Oh, thinking of offering Baker and Tua. That's not going to be accepted. That's going to be laughed off. You're far off. Very far. Your opposing manager is going to laugh at you. So that's very far off. Trying to trade for Hardman. I wouldn't do that. Not a fan. I would not try to trade for him. Okay. Good question here from Cooper from DLF. How much attention, if any, do you pay for training camp reports? Are there some types of players, positions you care about more than others? This is actually very timely because right now I'm writing an article that's called Training Camp Storylines about training camp reports that I care about and don't care about. Okay, here's what I don't care about. When I have a long track record with a player, or long enough, where my mind is kind of made up, and I'm going to need more than a beat reporter to change it. I gave an example in the article. I used 2 examples. Carson Wentz and Drew Lock. They will not convince me. You can tell me Carson Wentz looks great in camp. Drew Lock is wonderful. Blah, 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 blah. That's not going to change my mind. I need to see them do it against a real opponent in a game that counts before I start to change my opinion. So it's not really a player or position. It's more, how locked in am I on my take? And is it something where a beat report could change my mind? There are some things, it's like, who's going to start at running back for the Texans? I think it's going to be David Johnson, but if the beat reporters are saying it's Phillip Lindsay, well, that's fine. I mean, I'm willing to accept that because I have really no attachment to that decision at all. I just assumed it would be David Johnson, but new information could change my mind. That's just an example. For the Broncos, back to the Broncos, I have no idea who the Broncos starting quarterback is actually going to be. I'm going to look at the beat reports for that. So things like that. I mean, there aren't too many things where I'm like completely locked in, but there are a few. So I'm paying attention to all of it. But lower down on the depth chart, I'm more likely to be convinced than higher. Put it that way. I know more about the better players. The better the player is, the more research I've done on them, the more I know about them. So the less likely that a beat report is going to change my mind. It's unlikely that a beat report is going to change my mind on CeeDee Lamb at this point. That's probably not going to change my opinion. But, if there's a lot of positive beat reports about like Emir Smith-Marset, that my opinion could change. Or if there are negative beat reports on Emir Smith-Marset, my opinion could change. So the lower down the player, the more likely, down the ADP, the more likely I am to change my mind. So just keep that in mind. Moving forward. So we have some more comments. Hard to say what someone will trade Mahomes for, but if they need 2 QB, it's not enough. I'm not going to trade Mahomes for Baker and Tua. I mean, I just wrote an article about Baker saying that he's a whatever player, and we know that I think Tua is not very good. So nobody's doing that. So you can get that show out of your mind. That idea out of your mind immediately. What did I even want to say when I said show there? Maybe a bad word. Maybe a bad word we didn't want me to say. Okay. Extra show from P230. Yes, it is an extra show. From Gary. Do the value of first-round picks change in a 14-team league as opposed to a 12-team league? I mean, yes, they do. Because in a 14-team league, a first-round pick could be anywhere from 101 to 114. So it's worth less because the average value is lower. So it's worth less. I can't see any other way to how to see it than that. Really. Let me know if you disagree, but to me, that's just how I see it. I generally find I don't really enjoy 14-team leagues. I certainly don't enjoy 16-team leagues. I generally find that what I dislike about those leagues is that when you have to rebuild, it is really hard to do it. It can take years because you can't get those higher picks as easily. There's more first rounders. I'm just not. I prefer the 12-team format. It's more fun for me. What did we talk about with Javonte here from P230? I agree that I'm in on Javonte, but who said I wasn't in on Javonte? I am in. Oh, Eric. Mr. Vanilla. Yes, I mean, when you run a Patreon, the more people who have differing formats, the more time it takes me to do everything. And, I'm going to be better the more everything is the same. I mean, I'll do my best in any format, but the more similar everything is, the easier it's going to be for me to help you. And on this show, we're going to cover things that apply to the most number of people, and that's 12-team leagues at this point, superflex. Probably. Not that superflex are the majority of dynasty leagues yet, but they're the majority of new leagues. And I would hazard a bet that they're the majority of people listening to this show, even if it's not the majority of everybody. All right, let's keep rolling on those. Speaking of superflex, and changing to superflex is actually very timely. So from Nick, a YouTube comment, we're switching to superflex. Is it too early to start preparing for the turnover? I mean, no, because you're going to be a super flex eventually. I would start preparing for it. There was more to this question, specific players involved. But I always like to get my point out there on this, is that there is no good way to change from a 1 QB to a super flex. Every way is bad. It's just what's the least bad. I always say just start a new super flex league. It's more fun than having to deal with it. But no, you should start preparing now, for sure. We talked about this a little bit, but I wanted to give it its fair due from Nathan Powell. Should I fade Laviska? I don't think so. I would not do that. I would like Laviska, but there are some people. I see some people being very confident that DJ Chark is just going to be phased out of the offense, and this might be one of those camp storylines I'm looking at, because I am not confident in that at all. Like, the only thing I'm confident in this offense is that Laviska is going to be involved with the receivers. That is, for the other receivers, I don't know. There's a lot more doubt for me about Chark and Marvin Jones. I mean, Chark could return to his alpha role, or he could be phased out a lot. I don't know. So this is something where I would look at the training camp reports. I would look at the preseason. But either way, I wouldn't fade Laviska. All right. From Asmodean, what would you pay for Henderson now that Akers is out? That's a good question. I mean, I'm not paying a first, and I'll easily buy him for a second. If we look at my running back rankings, I am pretty low on Darrell Henderson. I still have him below Michael Carter. But I have him above. I've made some adjustments. I have him above James Robinson and above Damian Harris. I forget exactly where I had him in the past, but I still have him below Michael Carter, who I just think has a lot more potential. So you're not paying a first for Michael Carter. Probably. You shouldn't be. So I don't find that buying Henderson has had a lot of success, but I've also heard of people getting Henderson for like Gabriel Davis or Darnell Mooney, and I would easily do that. So you're probably not getting him for picks, though, because it's going to cost the first and I'm not paying it. I'm probably looking at a different tactic. Let's see. I traded for Laviska a few minutes ago from Zach. 10-team PPR Superflex with half-point tight end premium. Hawkinson for Laviska and 2 firsts. What? That's 2. Hawkinson's not worth that much. So give me Laviska and 2 firsts, even in the premium. It's not that big of a premium. It's easily the Laviska side. I sent the trade and added MT to Baker and Tua. That's still not enough. MT, Baker, and Tua is not enough for Mahomes. It's not enough. Okay. From @_NJ Watson. Will OBJ have a bounce back season this year? What do you project for him? I mean, no, I don't think so. I'm kind of out on OBJ. I'm not really in on Baker. I have OBJ for the 2021 season as the wide receiver 28. I'm kind of meh on him. I don't think it's going to be a bounce back. I think I'm good on OBJ. Okay. Trip. Trevor Lawrence, year 1. What's a more likely range in your outcome? The range in your opinion in 1 QB leagues? QB 1 to 10 or 11 to 20? I mean, if we're talking about finish, it's 11 to 20 relatively easily. I have him ranked QB 14 for this year alone. In Dynasty, he's QB 7. And he'll be a top 10 quarterback after this year, unless he's like the biggest bust of all time. He's like one of the most insulated assets that there is. So, yeah, but I have him QB 14 for this year. Okay. Grant, I took your advice from last night's show, Tyler. That's it. It's a great idea. You should take my advice. Got Chase and Bateman for Adams and Robinson in a rebuild. Do you also like this part? I got 23 first or 23 second. I really do like that part. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Great job. This is exactly what you want to do in a rebuild. Okay. From Luke. I like Boyd, but I'm not totally sold on him with the addition of Chase. Love him as a player. Can we explain why we don't like Boyd as much anymore? Well, I mean, Boyd is not very good. He's not very good. He's fine, but alphas eat first. We know that. And now there are 2 alpha receivers ahead of him. So how good is Boyd going to be? People say, oh, you can support 3 wide receivers, but the places where that's worked, you had the Rams do it, but Cooks, Woods, and Kupp were similar in talent level. So they all produced. That's not the case here. Chase is significantly more talented than Higgins, who's significantly more talented than Boyd. So if that's the case, I don't think Boyd's really going to produce. That's really where I'm at with this. Usually when it's 3 wide receivers, there's 3 with similar talent levels, not with a talent gap like what we have here. Okay. From Nalexco. Michael Carter is a fun prospect. Would you package him for someone like Kareem Hunt, who essentially feels like Carter's best case scenario? I do not think Kareem Hunt, well, if we're talking about the Chiefs' Kareem Hunt, yeah, that's definitely Michael Carter's best case scenario. That's better than his best case scenario. But the Browns' Kareem Hunt is not Carter's best case scenario. With that said, I would still prefer Kareem Hunt straight up if I had to choose, but it's getting close already. I'm not adding to Carter for Hunt at this point. From Zach, do I like Kenny Nwangu as a taxi stash? Is there any possibility he can compete with Madison for touches? Yes. Yes, there is. I'm not really in on Madison. I think Madison is jag, a total jag. So I do like Kenny Nwangu as a taxi stash, especially if Cook gets more injury issues. Okay. From Real Fantasy TL, Josh. Josh has a great show, The Fantasy Timeline. You should watch it. Listen to it. 16-team Superflex. Trevor Lawrence or Devontae Adams, Brandon Cooks, 2022 first. In a 16-team Superflex, I cannot stress enough how much quarterbacks are worth. They are worth their weight in gold. This is not enough for Trevor Lawrence. I would need way more. I'm just a 20. Remember, a first is 1 out of 16 picks, so that's much lower than it would normally be. And then Adams, is an aging wide receiver. I like him, but he's aging. 28 years old already with some uncertainty about his future. This is easily Trevor Lawrence in a 16-team Superflex. It's actually not very close to me. Trevor Lawrence. People need to realize what a 16-team Superflex does. It essentially makes every quarterback worth a whole first more than they were before. So I'm not making a steal. At Behar 15, as an Akers owner in Dynasty, what would you give up in a trade for Henderson? I don't think having or not having Cam Akers changes anything for me. So it's the same answer as it was before. I'm giving up a second rather easily, maybe even a couple of seconds, not giving up a first. And I'd give a speculative wide receiver for him. I'd be fine giving Henry Ruggs too. Even if it costs Henry Ruggs, I'm fine doing that. I'm even fine giving someone a receiver I think is on the way out, like Tyler Boyd, an unproven player like Terrace Marshall, or kind of just a meh player for me, and like Curtis Samuel. I'm fine giving any of one of those guys for Darrell Henderson if that's what it costs. I'm just not giving up that first. Oh, from John Hesterman. Oh, well, we love John. I've met him in person. He's a great person. It was very fun. Nice family too. Give Adams for Sutton, Henderson 2022 second on a contender. Now that Rodgers is back, I think Adams on a contender requires a larger return. I do. I think he requires a larger return. He's the clear wide receiver 1 for 2021. You need to get more than this. A little bit more. I think it would need to be how much more? So if that were this isn't really for a contender, but if that were a first instead of a second, I would be much more interested. I also believe this is 1 QB. So that were a first instead of a second, I would be more interested. If that were instead of Sutton, if it were Brandon Ayuk, I would be a lot more interested. And if instead of Darrell Henderson, it were like on a contender, I don't know, like David Montgomery, this just isn't enough for what Adams offers on a contender as a clear wide receiver one. So I would pass on this deal. Diggs greater than Adams? Sorry, not sorry. No. Adams is a clear wide receiver one this year. Any tips? Any tips for one QB full PPR Dynasty startup? I'm picking one overall. I mean, pick CMC. That's my tip in a one QB startup. I don't know. I'd pick CMC and then load up on a bunch of receivers and hit running back late, usually, if I'm picking at one. Mark, I'm one of 4 teams in contention. I have Cook, Kamara, and Eckler, but not a whole lot of depth. Would you offer a trade of Cook for Chase, Etienne / D. Williams? D. Williams? I mean, Javonte? And a 2023 first. You're not getting that for Cook. That's not a real. You can offer it. You can offer it. It'll never be accepted. You can offer it, but you're never getting that for Dalvin Cook. You're going to get Chase, Etienne, and the 2023 first. You're not going to get Chase and Etienne. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get Chase in the 2023 first. Maybe that's what you could get at most. Maybe you could get one of the 2 players in the 2023 first, but you're not getting all of this. That's not realistic. Matt says, thanks. Thank you. And yeah, not getting that for Cook. You're not. Okay. I got a few more questions in the banners. And then if there's no more questions in the chat, we'll wrap the show. I just want to blaze through these questions. At Scotty with a bunch of numbers, 10-team IDP, 1 QB offered Jefferson for Ridley and late second. Fair. Should I ride Ridley? Given how I feel about age, if it's just a late second, I don't know about IDP, but I'm probably just taking Jefferson and getting out from Ridley. Ridley's almost 5 years older than Jefferson. I'll probably just take Jefferson, even with a second. From FF, Evan Lucian. How Evan? I love Evan. Does recent Cam news make you feel any different about trying to roster your own handcuffs in Dynasty? Because I'm pro this. I'm anti that. I want value. I'm a value person. So if value dictated that somehow I drafted Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard on the same team, it's very unlikely. Then I would do it, but it's not likely that I'm going to do that. It is very possible that I could have had Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers on the same team because I was higher on both of them compared to their ADP this offseason. So that's something that a situation I could have been in. But in most cases, I'm higher than consensus on one of the 2 backfield players and lower on the other. It's rare that I'm higher on both, so usually I don't end up with both. Like some of the good handcuffs in the Packers backfield, I'm pretty in on A.J. Dillon at his ADP, but I'm not in on Aaron Jones, so I'm not going to have them both. I'm not really in on Cook or Madison. I'm not really in on Zeke, although I am in on Pollard at his ADP. So it's just not likely that I'm going to end up with both players. That's the only thing, just based on my values, based on value. So I guess my answer to this question is it does not make me feel any different. Okay. From Mark, 12-team superflex. Trade Javonte for a first and a second or J-Rob. So J-Rob or the second. So, I'd probably rather have J-Rob than a second, even in superflex. That seems cheap. So I'd probably do it. Yeah, I'd probably do it. I'd probably trade Javonte for that. I just think that, depends on where that first is going to land. It's tough. With J-Rob in there, I'm more likely to do it because I think J-Rob is going to produce something this year. Without him, if it's just the first and the second, I might have to decline. Really depends on where that first is going to be, how early. It's kind of where I'm at. From Jaws, Michael Thomas still worth 2 firsts? No. No, I had single QB. In single QB, he's still worth a first. In superflex, I think he's worth almost exactly a first. As in, but I'm not paying it, and I would sell him for it. But I really wouldn't sell him for anything less than a first. In superflex, I think he's basically worth exactly 1 first. Therefore, in single QB, he's worth slightly more. But not 2. I would probably send a random 2020, but see, I don't even want to buy into Thomas. I'm probably not buying into Thomas no matter what. But in a single QB, I'd need more than just the single 2022 first to sell him. I would like a first and a second to at least make me feel a little better about it. I'm not buying though. So his price is weird to me because the gap between the selling price and the buying price is large because I'm just not buying. I'd need like a 30% discount to buy. From Grant, I mean, who do we got to cheer for to hit their top possible outcome? For you to take home, me to take home the Scott Fish Bowl? I mean, Derek Carr would be nice. Yeah. Josh Jacobs on the same team. I mean, I lost Michael Thomas, so a high outcome from T. Higgins or Jerry Jeudy, who are the receivers behind him, to fill in would really be very helpful, actually. So Higgins or Jeudy. After that, you get to like dart throws. So you can replace those guys, but I probably need to, without MT, now I probably need to hit on Higgins or Jeudy to really have a good chance. But last year I started like Chad Hansen during weeks. So anyway, you never know. All right. Last one from at PGJPM. You can only pick one. Who you got? Cam, Jimmy G, Mac Jones, Love. I mean, Mac Jones, right? In Dynasty, these are the guys. Love is now, the other ones. I mean, Cam, I think, is just done after the second he hits the bench. I think he'll never play another game again. Jimmy G and Love, I think, have starting potential. And Jimmy G is going to start this season. Love is such a maybe at this point. I'm starting to come around a little bit on Jimmy G, though, in Dynasty, because if he shows out, he's going to get another job. Jimmy G is one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet, like, for sure. And I just feel that he's going to be the starter, and what if he balls? He's not bad. So Jimmy G is like a solid buy for me in Superflex. Definitely someone I'm buying for this year. Jordan Love, unfortunately, it's going to be a long wait, I think, at this point. But he will get a chance eventually. But of these, obviously, it's Mac Jones. Judy, big year. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? I hope so. And good luck from Grant. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do as we wrap the show. So let's, if you want to, and then I'm also going to include I'm just, keep supporting me. All the support's been great. And, I'll do this kind of thing from time to time. Usually I'll just wrap it once I get through all the questions I had planned. I was trying to get some guests for this, but we didn't get any. So, it's been a little bit of a shorter show than I had in mind. And, just check out those links. And thanks for watching.